Angkor Wat is one of Asia's most impressive ancient sites. Millions flock to the ruins each year to admire the beautiful architecture and impressive temple, hoping to gain some insight into this culture that once thrived in the region. According to archaeologists, its built was over 800 years ago in honor of Hindu gods. Researchers and scholars have laid their eyes on the beauty of the Angkor Wat and have been thoroughly fascinated by its marvelous structures and the intricate layout of the site. However, very few people know of its intricate hydraulic water system, which appears to have been built using some form of ancient technology. Join us in this video as we embark on a journey back in time to the 12th century to investigate the legends of the demigod builders of the site and how they built such an intricate water system that some have suggested is as impressive as anything in modern times. The site of Angkor Wat. Located in the northwestern part of Cambodia, Angkor Wat is widely considered one of the most fascinating temple structures in the world. The site once stood as the capital of Khmer Empire, which presided over a vast portion of Southeast Asia. According to historians and archaeologists, the Khmer Empire rose to prominence in the 9th century, but rose to its greatest height around 1100 CE. During this period, a great king arose who would go on to build Angkor Wat with the help of 300,000 men and 6,000 elephants. The official story behind the construction of the elaborate temples and surrounding structures begins with King Suryavarman II, who ruled from 1113 to 1150. He ordered the construction of Angkor Wat and was built over several decades. It served to function as a temple complex, mausoleum, and political center for his vast empire. Created for the Hindu deity Vishnu, the Angkor Wat complex was built to represent the Hindu universe. 5 sandstone towers rise above the temple enclosures. The central tower represents the mythical Mount Meru, the center of the Hindu universe and the home of the god Brahma and the Devas, and the surrounding 4 smaller peaks. The temple wall and surfaces are covered with intricate carvings, designed to be viewed in an anti-clockwise direction. These depict deities and other figures from Hindu and Buddhist scriptures, telling the stories of the history and mythology of Cambodia. They even include scenes from the Hindu Mahabharata and a carving of Emperor Sarvaharman II entering the city for the first time. The unique complex water system. In architectural terms, Angkor Wat is often considered a masterpiece. The main temple is an enormous pyramid made up of 3 levels. It was built upon a piece of land that is surrounded on all sides by water. Most of the major structures are made from intricate blocks of laterite encased in sandstone, while the surrounding buildings would have been made from less durable materials such as wood. The Angkor Wat temple is surrounded by an enormous moat measuring approximately 200 meters across. This again relates back to an idea that suggests it's supposed to represent the ocean surrounding Mount Mara. However, one of the most fascinating aspects of the city that's rarely talked about is its advanced hydraulic system. During the 1950s and 60s, French archaeologist Bernard-Philippe Groslier was working at the site and decided to reconstruct the layout of the land using aerial archaeology. He soon revealed to the world the complexity of the site's water management system, leading him to refer to Angkor Wat as the hydraulic city. Following in his footsteps, various researchers over the next 70 years would also investigate the unique water network and the vital role it played for the site's inhabitants. In 2012, the true extent of the hydraulic system was revealed when a group of researchers performed airborne laser scans at the site. It revealed that the water management system runs for over 1,000 square kilometers by way of unique man-made canals that are carved to steer water from the Punam Kulen River to the plains of the ancient city. It's been surmised that the impressive canals allowed the ancient builders of Angkor Wat to transport millions of sandstone bricks, some of which weighed over a ton, to the site. The hydraulic water system was able to provide inhabitants of Angkor Wat with year-round water, which supported their population, livestock, and agriculture. But another impressive use of the water actually stabilized the foundations of the structure. The hydraulic system fed the foundations for a unique purpose. The builders realized that the sandy soil alone could not support the weight of the stones. So master engineers discovered that mixing sand and water creates stable foundations, so that the moats surrounding each temple were designed to provide a constant groundwater supply. This has created foundations strong enough to keep the temples stable and prevent them from crumbling all these centuries later. The hydraulic system was improved over the centuries by successive kings, who expanded and improved the complex water network. The system is made up of webs of canals, dikes, reservoirs, and moats, the largest of which is the West Beret, which is nearly 8 kilometers long, 2 kilometers wide, and is considered an engineering marvel. One archaeologist had the following to say about the hydraulic system. Angkor's hydraulic system is so unique because of its scale. Many examples of historic sites with elaborate water management systems exist, but nothing like this. The scale of the reservoirs, for example. The amount of water the West Beret holds is incredible. Many European cities could have comfortably sat within it when it was built. It's mind-boggling. It's the sea. The unique and complex architectural design and the impressive hydraulic system have led many alternative researchers to suggest that the site was built using some form of technology that was ahead of its time. While this may seem far-fetched, there are various legends from the era, both from the Hindus and later the Buddhists, that shed some light on the mysterious surrounding Angkor Wat, legends behind the construction. According to archaeologist Charles Higham, Suryavarman wasn't just a man, but was a demigod. In all depictions of the fabled king, he appears large and muscular with his people seated around him. According to legends, he was of a divine lineage that stretched back into prehistory and was looked upon as a demigod by his people. Other legends portray him as an incarnation of Vishnu. However, scholars in recent years have refuted this idea and believe the legends that speak of his divine lineage are nothing more than propaganda created by the king himself to ensure no one challenges his rule. Yet we cannot deny the accomplishments during his short reign and his ability to extend the Khmer Empire. Could King Suryavarman have made a member of an ancient race that dates back to a time when the deities walked the earth according to Hindu tradition? Maybe he had imparted some of his knowledge to the builders during the construction of Angkor Wat. Well, it just happens that Buddhist traditions also speak of a unique legends surrounding this ancient city. Sometime around the beginning of the 13th century, Angkor became a Buddhist temple and became a refuge for the spiritual belief system. The Buddhists of the area recorded a unique legend passed on to them that the site of Angkor Wat was built in a single night under orders from the Hindu god Indra. The site of Angkor Wat certainly seems well beyond for numerous reasons, including its intricate hydraulic system and architectural planning. While the various legends surrounding King Suryavarman, the second and the Buddhist legends only further add to the mystery of the site. Is there a possibility that it was built by the ancient Hindu gods? But what do you think? Have you ever been to the site of Angkor Wat for yourself? And do you think there's enough evidence to suggest that the hydraulic water system could have been knowledge passed on to the Khmer Empire from demigods? Or were the ancient people living in the area of Cambodia simply more advanced than the surrounding empires? Archaeology has helped us to give us a deep understanding of our ancient past. Through the process of excavation, archaeologists are able to piece together the fragmented parts of our history. However, sometimes a site is discovered that's so irregular and mysterious that it begins to rewrite everything we thought we knew about humanity's history. This is the story of Gobekli Tepe. Gobekli Tepe is an ancient temple complex and so far the oldest ever discovered. Researchers have dated the construction of the site to approximately 10,000 BC. It comprises various ceremonial structures made up of the enormous T-shaped pillars that stand up to 6 meters high. The various pillars are decorated with beautiful depictions of snakes, foxes, lions, bulls, and geometric symbols. While we're beginning to understand the site, various mysteries still surround Gobekli Tepe. Why did Neolithic communities build such an elaborate temple structure at a time when large portions of the world were under enormous ice glaciers? How could they move the colossal stones considering some weighed over 60 tons? Was the site intentionally buried? And most importantly, was this temple built specifically to warn humanity of a cataclysmic event that was due to occur in the future? Let's find out together. The origins of modern civilization. The archaeological site of Gobekli Tepe is located in Upper Mesopotamia, a region that saw the emergence of the most sophisticated farming societies in the ancient world. It lies around 6 miles from Urfa, an ancient city in southeastern Turkey. According to mainstream academics, the people that lived during the construction of Gobekli Tepe should have been unsophisticated hunters living at the end of the last major ice age. Yet the site provides beyond a doubt that these people were far more civilized than we could have imagined. From initial excavations, archaeologists were able to conclude that planning and high level of architecture were significant components in constructing this unique site. For some time, it was thought that the humans lived in and around the central part of the site. However, there is no credible evidence to suggest that Gobekli Tepe ever served as a settlement. This led researchers to conclude that it served as some kind of religious site and the oldest of its kind in history. It's possible that groups traveled from as far away as Africa and the Levant to visit the site and partake in ceremonies put on by ancient shamans. Researchers have even suggested it was some kind of school that taught cultures the principles of living an agrarian lifestyle. They would have instructed to use the stars for guidance and to mark agricultural seasons. But it went beyond the physical aspects of learning. It's thought Gobekli Tepe was also an initiation center for pupil shamans. They would come here to receive teachings that were centered on cosmology and astronomy. This theory was put forth by the researcher Andrew Collins. The evidence supplied by Collins to back up his claim relates back to an ancient belief in a pole star. This is still prevalent among the Shams today in Asia. The Mongolian, Turkish, Tungus shamans still believe the sky god, Tengri Ulgan, ascends to the throne on the pole star Polaris. However, at some point in 8000 BC, the ancient builders of this temple decided to bury it under tons of rubble. This is one of the many great mysteries surrounding this site that has continued to spark debate in the archaeological world. It's thought that for whatever reason, the ancient builders wanted to preserve what they had built, and so it was initially buried. Gobekli Tepe also appears to be the place from which farming began to spread out around the Fertile Crescent of the Mesopotamia valleys. Again, no mainstream archaeologists confidently answer why, all of a sudden, hunter-gatherers began to settle down and live an agrarian lifestyle, nor why, out of nowhere, a group of hunter-gatherers came out of an ice age and would decide to build one of the most elaborate temples in history. A passing of the torch. Since the discovery of Gobekli Tepe back in the 60s, various archaeological excavations have been carried out. We began to understand the site a little better with each new discovery. The best theory on the practical use of the site outside of its ceremonial aspects is that it served as an astronomical observatory. One theory suggests that the site was aligned with Sirius, a star that would be later worshipped by various cultures, including the dynastic Egyptians. Evidence also supports the idea that portions of the site may be aligned to various constellations and celestial bodies, further deepening the mystery of the site even further. This has led many scholars to suggest that Gobekli Tepe wasn't the first place of its kind. Instead, it was the rekindling of an ancient civilization that thrived before and during the last great ice age. A popular theory put forth by many researchers is that the following cataclysmic events of the Younger Dryas period, otherwise known as the Great Flood, an ancient civilization settled in the area. The Younger Dryas was a period of unusual glacier activity around 11,600 years ago. For thousands of years, the Earth had been slowly coming out of the last major ice age, when all of a sudden, it immediately went back into one of the coldest periods of the last 100,000 years. It's now thought that during the Younger Dryas, large fragments of a comet struck North America with such ferocity that it brought on a 100,000-year ice age. The impact of the comet would have caused flooding on a scale we, as modern humans, couldn't even fathom, bringing about a collapse in civilization all around the world. According to the prominent researcher Graham Hancock, what we observe at Gobekli Tepe is a transfer of technology between an advanced culture and hunter-gatherers. Graham claims that there's just no way a hunter-gathering population one day decided to build such an elaborate structure. Instead, he claims that following a great cataclysmic, ancient pre-Diluvian society found the fertile plains around Gobekli Tepe and decided to rebuild civilization there. They brought with them the knowledge of agriculture, astronomy, mathematics, and stone architecture. They shared this knowledge with various hunter-gatherer communities, and this was the beginning of the new world as we know it. A warning for future generations. In recent years, some researchers have begun to put forth a rather compelling theory that many of the T-pillars at Gobekli Tepe contain astrological warnings. These researchers believe that Gobekli Tepe itself was partially built to warn future generations about the devastating cataclysms that come from the sky. One specific pillar is thought to represent a comet impact, which is generally the reason behind the catastrophic events that occurred at the tail end of the last ice age. Various researchers have suggested that one of the T-shaped pillars actually served as a memorial for the events that transpired during the centuries following the impact of the comet. What do you think? Could an ancient society have really built Gobekli Tepe to warn about the possibility of another comet impact as their ancestors had experienced? And is this why Gobekli Tepe was buried, knowing that one day it would be discovered by modern humans? This idea has a surprising link to one of the most famous stories of an ancient civilization that was supposedly wiped out by a great flood. One aspect of this great ancient temple complex that generally ignored by mainstream academics is that it coincides perfectly with Plato's story of Atlantis. We've spoken at great length about the story of Atlantis in a previous video, so we won't dive into it too much here. The story of Atlantis was passed down to the Greek philosopher Plato. He was told by Solon that, according to Egyptian priests, the great city of Atlantis sunk to the bottom of the ocean approximately 9,600 years ago. This means that with the 2,000 years that have passed since Plato's death, it would equate to around 11,600 years. This is exactly the time when Gobekli Tepe was founded. Could this be a compelling evidence that the ancient civilizations of Atlantis a worldwide culture was sunk during this great cataclysm recorded at Gobekli Tepe? And could it point towards the idea that the Atlanteans were the advanced culture that brought the arts of civilization to the hunter-gatherers in and around the region of Turkey? There is still a lot to learn about this ancient site in Turkey. With each passing year, we're slowly unraveling the mysteries of the world's most ancient religious site. Considering only around 5% of the entire site has been excavated, could take a few more decades until we get to the bottom of the mystery. What do you think? Was Gobekli Tepe just a religious site built by Neolithic hunters? Or could it have been built by an advanced pre-Diluvian culture that came to teach humanity the arts of civilization following a dramatic cataclysm?